Time magazine saying the quiet part loud. No, not actually. I take that back. We'll explain. The secret history of the shadow campaign that saved the 2020 election. Oh. No joke.
I'm tracking.
Straight up. They say Trump was right. There was... okay, I am reading... I'm going to read to you from Time magazine. Trump was right. There was a conspiracy unfolding behind the scenes, one that both curtailed the protests and coordinated the resistance from CEOs. Both surprises were the result of an informal alliance between left-wing activists and business titans. The Democrats, major corporations and CEOs, formed what I guess you could call a lucrative merger between corporation and state for the purpose of winning political power. Is there a word for something like that?
The word's fascist.
Oh, fascist. Oh, is that the... I want to read something to you guys from the article. This is the craziest aspect of this, which I think is one of the most demoralizing sentences you'll probably hear. Their work touched every aspect of the election. They got states to change voting systems and laws and helped secure hundreds of millions in public and private funding. You ready for the next one? They fended off voter suppression laws. They fended off voter suppression lawsuits, recruited armies of poll workers, and got millions of people to vote by mail for the first time. I would like to see an investigation into what that sentence means. What do you mean they recruited poll workers? They were poll workers who were in this cabal, in this conspiracy, according to Time magazine. Let me slow it down for you guys. Time magazine said there was a conspiracy to produce the proper outcome. They recruited poll workers. It's in the article. I'm going to show you one more time. It says they recruited armies of poll workers. What were they doing? What were those poll workers doing as part of this conspiracy?
What are the sources of this article?
They have the names. They have the people on record.
Everyone's named on record. There's from the AFL-CIO, not the president, but the senior advisor to the president. There's people involved from numerous progressive left of center organizations. A ton of people from these, protect democracy type groups like Norm Eisen, Ian Besson is someone who's also been named in there. A lot of the same people, by the way, who were pushing the Russiagate lawsuits, running a lot of the websites that had to do with Russiagate. I mean, all those ones that sort of started bubbling up in around late 2017, early 2018, suddenly shifted. Mueller came out, that didn't work, the report, they shifted suddenly. And then starting in 2019, they were all talking about this election, what they called protection, voter protection, right? And again, to use that phrase, there's a lot of editorializing in this article as well. And I hope people understand that while they're reading this, that they call it an election suppression law. Well, an election suppression law, if you have a different perspective on it, it might be something called an election integrity law. Yeah. Right? Having somebody check your signature, doing a signature match, that's not suppression.
They call it suppression.
That's not, that's making sure that that's the real person that's actually signing up. Checking ID, this is not suppression. This is making sure you are the real person. But they will call it suppression as a way of saying, oh, you're trying to disenfranchise people. No, we're trying to make sure that look, I'm a veteran. A lot of people are veterans. We always talk about our democracy is the most important thing in this country. Well, shouldn't we take it seriously and not allow shadowy cabals to be able to come in and control the flow of information and laws?
So editorializing, right? They come out, they say voter suppression and disinformation. Disinformation literally just means information. From your perspective, you could say it's fake news. Someone else could say it's not. It's literally suppressing just information, whether you like it or not. The handshake between business and labor was just one component of a vast cross-partisan campaign. But the best part is just jumping down, because they really are quite wordy in this. Let me read this for you.
Yeah, no kidding.
This is the inside story of the conspiracy to save the 2020 election, based on access to the group's inner workings, never before seen documents, and interviews with dozens of those involved from across the political spectrum. I'm going to stop right there and tell you that conspiracy implies a crime. In law, it does, and the general definition is unlawful or harmful act. A group acting in secret for an unlawful or harmful outcome. They go on to say, it is the story of an unprecedented, creative, and determined campaign whose success also reveals how close the nation came to disaster. Every attempt to interfere with the proper outcome of the election was defeated. The proper outcome of the election.
Interesting word.
What does that mean?
I love this article.
Yes.
I love everything about this article.
Says
I love
Ian,
the way it's written.
They say, quote, but it's massively important for the country to understand that it didn't happen accidentally. The system didn't work magically. Democracy is not self-executing. That's why the participants want the secret history of the 2020 election told. Even though it sounds like a paranoid fever dream, a well-funded... Okay, I'm going to stop right now. My friends, I am reading you verbatim from Time.com, Time Magazine. These are not my words. A well-funded cabal of powerful people ranging across industries and ideologies, working together behind the scenes to influence perceptions, change rules and laws, steer media coverage, and control the flow of information. They were not rigging the election, they were fortifying it. And they believe the public needs to understand the system's fragility in order to ensure that democracy in America endures. I'll make it very clear for you. You are not saving democracy when you conspire behind the scenes with powerful industrialists, CEOs, and the elites to subvert the flow of information and prevent the improper outcome as you see it. The true outcome is to sit back, advocate for your candidate, advocate for your ideas, and then hope people vote for you. What they did very much sounds like it was criminal. And I'll tell you why. I believe that the number right now is 24 states changed their election rules without going through state legislatures. Now, illegal is very different. Statutory law is different from constitutional law. So maybe I shouldn't say criminal. I'll just put it this way. It was a conspiracy to violate the Constitution to stop Donald Trump from winning.
To steer media coverage, control the flow of information, change rules and laws prior to an election.
Why now did Time, and I want to say this too, admit that there was a secret cabal of powerful, wealthy elites that were working with corporations, steering media coverage, influencing perceptions, and changing the rules to get their way? Time said that, not me. Don't get me in trouble. Why now did this happen? And when you look at those kind of other statements, you're seeing some rebuttals here. And the rebuttals here are that it was done in public. This was sort of transparent. But even if it was, it still doesn't make it a good thing. And when we look at what actually happened this election, specifically with the Hunter Biden story, especially with some of the primaries in the Democratic, presidential run-up, you see a lot of foul play. You see a lot of things that shouldn't have happened, but did, and they're wrong. The Hunter Biden cover-up story, that's the biggest one.
And to what you're saying, and we want to be clear about this because the article does this as well, and even with something we'll talk about later, the timeline matters, right? Going through the timeline in this article is important because they don't lay this out in a chronological fashion. You get about 3/4 of the way through this article. I've read it twice. It's about 6,500 words. Jeez. And about 3/4 of the way through, they admit that this was something they were working on in October and November of 2019. Because remember, we were all sold on this. Well, we had to do changes. We had to change the system because of COVID-19. Forget the fact that Dr. Fauci actually came out and Birx came out and said, oh, you actually can safely vote in person. They said that. As long as you're doing this social distancing, 6 feet, you're wearing a mask, perfectly fine. Same as going to Walmart. And it is obviously an essential act that you want to be performing. So Dr. Fauci came out and said that. But no, we were told, no, it can't be done. The workers have to be there all day. We can't allow this to happen. We've got to do the mail-in voting. We've got to do universal voting, send ballots everywhere, ballots all over the place in many of these states. And they were planning to do this even before the word COVID crossed anyone's lips in the West, back when, even before China started arresting the physicians out in Wuhan, right? They were already planning to change the system to get what they said, the appropriate outcome. The proper outcome.
The mail-in voting change in Pennsylvania happened in October of 2019.
Yeah.
Well before COVID happened. And I remember I didn't realize that. And so I saw this lawsuit pop up and then I started researching it and I was like, wait, they passed mail-in voting in October? I thought mail-in voting was being passed because of COVID. No, it was part of a elite cabal plan, according to Time Magazine. And they actually say this, mail-in voting, to get people to vote by mail for the first time. It was part of their plan. Now, I'll be honest. I mean, we knew this. They're not doing anything. They're changing the rules at the last minute in order to benefit themselves. We had Sean Parnell on the show, and he said they're changing the rules because it's going to help them win. So it's funny. You could say they broke the rules, but they changed the rules beforehand. So no rules were actually broken, except maybe the Constitution, which is a big rule.